believe that we have Dr. Conrad on the line this morning. Good morning, Dr. Conrad.
Hi.
Yes, good.
Good
We
morning.
have you now. So, Dr. Conrad, with the significant slowing down of the world economy due to the coronavirus, what can we look forward to as the expected fallout, let's say in the next 6 months or so and beyond?
Well, good morning again, Lisa, and to the public as well. Now, what we're seeing is something that I guess it's a global phenomenon, and it affected both the supply side and the demand side.
Mm-hmm.
And a number of countries have put out some of the anticipated numbers. I haven't seen any computations coming out from us yet. But what we can expect undoubtedly moving forward is that we will see an uptick in some of the indicators like unemployment. We might see an uptick in that, a general slowing of the economy and a general very slow growth. And I don't expect to see a recovery in the near future because we have, in addition to the fallout from the measures that have been put in place to stop the spread of the virus, we also have the issue of the significantly reduced energy prices, which is also going to affect us moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of, you mentioned about this slowdown in manufacturing. Now, what we have also seen is a significant drop because with the closure of so many factories in China, which was the hub of manufacturing, how is that going to affect the rest of the world in terms of the supply chain? You spoke about the supply chain there. Particularly,
Yes.
I've seen where Forbes has said, for example, we may see a shift in the manufacturing center from China to Mexico, perhaps. How would this affect the economy?
Well, again, a lot of our imports and the containers are not leaving some of the ports. So again, on the supply side, we will definitely have challenges, not necessarily shortages, but we will have challenges in terms of getting goods, moving goods and services around.
Yeah.
So all of the countries that we import from, the containers are not leaving the ports. And so again, and that is also going to be significantly heightened by way of some people who would have taken the opportunity to engage in probably panic buying. So that is not helping the situation on the supply side. You know, we would have consumed all that we have and not able to get it as fast as we can. Now, I know in the delivery yesterday, the Prime Minister indicated that, you know, they would be making funds available for those who engage in manufacturing and prioritizing in that they would now be able to continue to pay the importers would be able to continue to pay their bills so that we wouldn't lose the space in the queue when goods start moving.
Yeah. Yes, actually.
That would be, and I think he specified that they would be focusing on getting the necessities in pharmaceuticals and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. And as we are speaking about the package that Dr. Keith Rowley presented yesterday to the media, you spoke about the foreign exchange, but there were a number of other initiatives as well. For example, the decrease in the interest rates, the reduction in the interest rates with regard to credit cards by 10%, and particularly, 10 percentage points, right? And and also for small businesses, $25,000 and below to fix the interest rates, to cap it at 10%. We're seeing the reduction in the repo rate, in prime lending, and all of that. How is that expected to stimulate the economy?
Well, I understand what they're doing is an attempt to try to maintain the demand side, and I think that's what they were trying to do, is address the demand side. From a realistic standpoint, I am not too certain. Although they are good measures, I must say that they are good measures. There are some good initiatives that were brought out. My concern is that it really relies on a mechanism that follows through the system. So, for example, the banks are now more liquid. They were liquid in the beginning. They're highly liquid, and so now they're even more liquid. Now, what that relies on is, and even the interest rate reductions and those things, those mechanisms really have to be followed through now in the system. So, for example, now that the banks are more liquid, that means that people will now, the loanable funds are available.
Yes.
So it then relies on the individuals to engage in applying for the loan and then getting approved for the loan. So there are several other steps that are there in the process. Now that they're highly liquid, now it relies on the follow-through mechanism. So I'm not too sure how that would work out because businesses are uncertain about what is going to happen in the next month or two. And I am not sure that many people would be willing to engage in significant amounts of borrowing in light of uncertainty. So I'm not sure how that mechanism would play out in the system, although well-intentioned.
Yes, but I'm thinking, though, that if you were in the process of thinking about a loan and you're understanding now that the interest rate would be, or the lending rate would be significantly lower than it was, let's say, 2 months ago, it would act as an incentive for you to go forward and go to get that loan.
Absolutely. It would be an incentive, and even now I'm not too certain. Some people may want to renegotiate or restructure existing loans to benefit from the lower interest rates. So again, that mechanism still has to be followed through. So we'll see. It's difficult to say now how what the impact would be. So I think it would be in a month or so we'll begin to see how it would unfold.
Yes.
But of course, definitely, having the ability to skip a payment and all of these different measures in
without
place.
Penalty, without skip a payment.
Without penalty.
And without penalty, yes.
Yeah, without penalty. And then you have the individuals who are in the HDC housing units being able to skip a payment as well, so it will with their rent. And then asking for generally for an understanding. I think it's important that we know that everyone understands that it's not business as usual, and I think people are moving in the right direction in terms of making the best decisions that we could in the short term, understanding that to keep things going, and I think that's a global phenomenon as well. So again, as I said, they're good enough initiatives, and I'm certain that they mentioned that these are initiatives in the first instance. So things may, as things unfold, we may see more measures being put out.
Yep.
So I think that everyone understands that again, it's not business as usual, and we'll see some things moving forward. But I'm happy to see that everyone is coming together and on the same page. I think credit unions are now being in the process or into the process. So we'll see again understanding generally that we all have to bear the burden on a personal level.
What can businesses do? So I know that there are some businesses who actually prepare for recession time. So, they would do their strategic planning and so on and have a strategic plan in place, a checklist, so to speak, in the event that a recession would come up, that they can just pull it out and say, yes, this is how we are going to buffer, how we're going to ride the waves of the recession. But this was unforeseen, yeah?
Right, absolutely.
And it's unprecedented as well. And we're coming, and it also comes on the back of a recession that we're now as a world coming out of. What can businesses do now, or can they do anything at all to buffer what's going on?
I think what I've observed is that those that can are continuing to try to see as best how they can generate some revenue. So I think the restaurants have moved to the curbside pickup. Some of them have, continued their operations, not as usual, but in the best way they can. In instances where those institutions are now closed, of course, there's absolutely no revenue. So, of course, most businesses would have a contingency plan in terms of how long they can operate without letting go staff, because that's one thing most businesses do not want to do. So I think, again, some of these measures put in place will help some of them. In instances where there were no contingency plans, then they would probably have to make different decisions. But, of course, with some of the measures put in place with a moratorium on mortgages, and, again, I think the government indicated that they would be trying to make significant payments to businesses that are owed monies, so that they can continue their operations at least for a month or so. So I think in some instances, yes, we will see them making the adjustments.
What about the creative sector now? Because we're seeing the cancellation of concerts, of film productions worldwide, and of course here in Trinidad and Tobago as well. And many of the persons who work, or most of the persons who work in the creative sector, are freelancers who work from job to job and are paid from job to job. So, and it impacts Trinidad and Tobago, but in speaking with some of my international colleagues who, who are working on some of these international productions as well, they are now without any source of revenue, and we're talking about a very significant sector, the creative sector, here in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as around the world.
Yeah, well, the creative sector certainly, and the tourism sector will certainly take a significant hit. And again, these things are unfortunate but unavoidable. And we'll have to now, and it's not that you can plan. I think a lot of the engagements have been postponed rather than be cancelled. So people are hoping that, in a month or two, then they will be able to restore some sense of normalcy. But again, we'll just have to wait and see how that unfolds. One of the things I want to mention outside of that is that since the 2008 crisis, what we have seen, we've noticed is that every recovery takes on a different form, in that recovery generally is a jobless recovery, primarily because we are able to improve efficiencies. So what is happening now is a lot of the institutions are finding ways, utilizing the technology to continue some of their operations. Mm-hmm. So coming out on the other side of this, we will see a recovery that will mimic something like the ones in the past, where we will see a significant, we won't see significant increases in job opportunities because companies and individuals would be utilizing technology in a different way. In addition, and we look at the education sector, some of the delivery mechanisms, those things will change because we have to adjust quickly. So a lot of the improvements and efficiencies will come out on the other side of that. So that's something that we would look forward to, and that is not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay, one final question as we begin to wrap, and you hit on it. I want you to just probably give us some more. Out of every recession or downturn, there are pockets of opportunity. They say that, the persons who are best ready and, sometimes have the most cash are the ones who benefit when recession takes place. Are there pockets of opportunity in the situation that we are in right now?
Absolutely. I would think there are opportunities coming out on the other end of it. There will be a lot of opportunities, and we will see engagement. There will be more opportunities. Of course, with the opportunities will call for some retooling. So individuals would have to probably go back and take a couple courses here and there, or do some kind of upgrading of their skills. But particularly in the IT delivery, we would see a significant increase in those types of opportunities. Even now, there's an increase in those types of opportunities to provide different services that would buttress some of the delivery platforms that are already in place, and as companies would gravitate now towards that, because that would reduce some of their operating costs and compensate for some of the losses during the times when business as usual is not an option.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Darren Conrad of the University of the West Indies, Deputy Dean of the Planning and Program Support Unit there. We're going to take in a few messages. Come right back here on the Now Morning Show.